This episode of Profiles in Risk is brought to you by InsurTech Connect Las Vegas. The legendary ITC is coming back to Vegas October 14 to 16 at the Mandalay Bay Casino. ITC is the largest InsurTech conference in the world by a long shot and the absolute cannot miss event of the year. We never miss it, neither should you. Register today using our discount code INSNerd200. Again, that's INSNerd200 and see you in Vegas, baby. And when you're there, look for me. I'm the guy with the red top hat and ask me for a magic trick. Hello and welcome to Profiles in Risk. This is your host, 𝗀𝗃𝗀𝗀. Today, coming in from Spain, where I'm doing some demographic research would be a way to put it. Usually I'm living in Atlanta, but I record from a lot of different places. Today I have with me Santoash Rajaram, founder at Stitch Studio. So Santosh, first of all, thank you for making time to record with me today. How are you doing?
Very good. Is my audio okay?
Oh, yes, you sound
Okay,
perfect.
perfect. I'm very good for having me, Tony. Yeah.
Fantastic, my pleasure. And it looks like you are in the Portland area.
That
So
is correct.
August,
Pacific Northwest.
so August in Portland, probably still summer, like still hasn't gotten cold and
It hasn't gotten cold and nasty yet, so it's pretty good. It's a
perfect.
good time of the year for us. If you've been to Pacific Northwest, it's amazing about 7 months of the year. The rest of the time you don't want to be here. It's wet and not fun. So
Now, Seattle, I've been to Seattle a couple times. I've been to Portland once. Seattle, very rainy, but it doesn't get snowy. Does Portland
that's
get
correct.
snowy, or
No, it's similar. We're
it's just a
south of
dreary raininess?
yeah. You just
All
miss
right.
the sun about 5 months of the year.
All right. So we
Mhm.
always give the guest a chance to get the elevator pitch. What is Stitch Studio?
Stitch Studio we're building a insurance specific AI platform where we make AI agents that are very specific to the insurance industry, rooted in the organizational context. One of our key thesis is in order for AI to be adaptable in the insurance organizations, you have to be able to embed them in the existing value chain of what's happening in the organization already. In order for agents to be embeddable, you need to create an infrastructure that allows agents to be rooted in the insurance knowledge and the organizational knowledge, right? I always give this analogy that when you take an LLM out of the box, like OpenAI's or Anthropic's or any of the LLMs out there, they're kind of like college kids, right? They're coming out of college with no experience. They may understand a little bit of insurance, but not a whole lot, right? So the first thing you have to do is, okay, teach them insurance, teach them how to think about the context, how do you navigate this space, right? Like that's sort of how you think about it. On top of that, let's say you trained someone in insurance. Let's say someone now they have the experience of with this knowledge, LLM might have the knowledge of, let's say, somebody who's been in the industry for 5 to 10 years, right? When you hire someone with that type of a knowledge into your organization, the average ramp up time for that person to be fully effective in your organization is about 12 to 18 months, depending on where you are in the value chain, in the insurance value chain, right? So that means every organization has its own specific way of doing things that's so unique that it takes that long to train. So our idea is you have to layer in the organizational context along with the industry context for it to be effective, and you have to design AI agents to be narrow and specific, and then we stitch them together to automate your workflows. That's the idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I've had plenty of guests who are creating AI, and over the last few months, quite a few that are focused on
Yeah.
agentic AI. You're the first one to recognize this very important context that it's not just they need to speak insurance, which is its own world, but that the way we do things in each particular company is different. So nobody else has brought that up, and I do think that is a very, very wise observation.
Yeah. For us, Tony, this comes from lived experience, if you will.
Okay. Uh-huh.
Prior to Stitch, I actually come from my all of my experience is consumer technology, right? I used to work for Apple. Prior to that, several startups, all in the consumer technology area. And my first foray into insurance is with the previous company I co-founded, which is called Spree. We built a machine learning platform and solutions specifically targeting insurance companies. One of the so and if you think about how the machine learning world worked, you would create these models in general, like we created an infrastructure that allowed you to create models. But regardless of what model you created, let's take census file standardization, right? Like in the group carrier world, that's a big deal. So if you take census file standardization, you can create a model that can standardize census files. But when you deploy this model into an organization, it's not going to work as is because every organization has a different rule or different way they think about the census file. So you have to tune it specifically for that organization, which means there is a delayed ROI because now they bought the platform, they want to use it. Now it's going to take 6 months to a year and a half to actually put this to production. We saw this live on census file models and fraud detection models in the disability space. Every single time we deployed a model, it's about a year and a half before they saw any sort of value from it, right? And the reason why that is because there's so much organizational tuning that you have to do. Part of the thing that we were, my co-founder at the time, and now he joined us as a CEO, Karan and I, what we were thinking about is how do we make this so that we don't have to wait a year and a half to do that? How do I create an infrastructure that can bake in organizational context as part of it so agents that you create are embedded with that organizational knowledge so they are immediately effective? So that's sort of our thesis, and we wrote a patent on it, and that patent ended up became a seed for Stitch. And it's all again, so our fundamental thesis then became that, okay, how do I create an infrastructure that allows me to embed both industry and organizational context in a narrow and specific way? That's sort of the lived experience
Okay.
turning into what and the timing sort of worked out too, right? Like if you asked us to do this about 6 years ago, we wouldn't be able to. LLM sort of makes this possible.
Oh, okay. So Spree was built in the
Pre-LLM.
pre-LLM.
That's correct.
Oh,
That is
okay.
correct.
And it was focused on the group insurance.
That is correct.
Okay, perfect. So the new company, Stitch, are you specifically focused on PNC? Are we going after group again, or what?
So
What?
my great question. So when I first started, I'm a builder by nature. So I started Stitch. When I first started thinking about Stitch, one of the things I thought about was, okay, how do I go build the things that are actually useful and not just build in an echo chamber or like in a silo? So all of the connections I ended up meeting with folks who engaged with me at the time are all in the group space because that's
Mhm.
sort of where I came from, right? And about beginning of this year, we got selected to be part of this accelerator called Broker Tech Ventures.
Oh, fantastic! Yes, out of Iowa.
Yeah. And yeah, Des Moines, Iowa. And prior to that, we got funding from Manchester Story. So there's a lot of broker connections we got from there. And that was sort of our first introduction to broker space, let alone commercial. But through that broker space, we sort of ended up in commercials. That's sort of my first introduction to commercial, PNC commercial
Mhm.
insurance. And since then, we started working with commercial PNC carriers as well. So if you look at our agent catalog today, we are about 60% group benefits LNA, and then we have 40% commercial PNC.
Yeah, and it's for now all agents and brokers, no, not carriers.
No, we do carriers and brokers and TPAs actually. So the way
Okay.
we approach this space is we again, every single piece of agent we've ever configured in our platform has a real world problem and a business architecture associated with it. So every time we engage with a client or we figure out what their business problem is, and we actually break that down into individual agents and we configure them. So when our background is group benefits carrier, but then since the broker introduction, we sort of ventured into the broker, both on the group side and the commercial P&C. And since then, because we sort of ended up getting introduced to commercial P&C, now we're also starting to work with carriers in the commercial P&C side.
Perfect. So the theory basically goes, we understand insurance, heavily regulated industry, sold by agents, 57 different regulators in the states. You know, those challenge the really old technology, slow to change.
Yeah.
We can apply to any side of the industry. What does the implementation look like? So how do we together? So the client and you, how do you teach? How do you teach the infrastructure layer our way of doing things?
Yeah. Great question. So one of the things that I mean, obviously the industry knowledge that we're talking about of the insurance in general, that's part of our base architecture, and our cognitive architecture understands it natively now. When we introduce this platform to client, we go through this phase called behavioral tuning for us. We deploy it, we run a few tests that are all automated for us to figure out how the agents are performing for a specific client. And based on the behavioral tuning, this is a combination of automated evaluations along with the feedback from the client. We go through a phase of about 4 to 6 weeks trying to do this and understanding how these agents are performing in production. And then based on what feedback we get, we build a layer that becomes a part of the organizational network, right? Like think of it as like an organizational network of nodes that we connect. And during the process of figuring out during the behavioral tuning phase, we adjust what this graph looks like. That's sort of that phase. And that obviously this is an ongoing effort, right? Like, so if the new data comes in, we learn from every piece of data that goes through our system to identify new connections we have to make. So the way you should think about the knowledge we collect is sort of if you think about the way I explain this, it's in a layman term would be if you have a new employee joining who has versus somebody who's been in your organization for a long time, the difference between how they approach a given task is someone who's been there for a long time, they will understand what questions to ask and who to ask those questions, right? If you figure that out, then it becomes, how to get the work done becomes a second nature. It becomes easier. Someone who just joined will not be able to do either. So what we are teaching the AI is those two things. And we do that by learning from the data.
Yeah, so you observe all of the movement of data within the organization and figure out if a silly example, if it's a licensing question, it's getting solved by this person kind of thing. It's getting solved by it moves around a bit, but
exactly
it gets done fastest when it ends up at this point.
That's right. So it's a lot more like, a specific example would be something like, hey, if you're in a claims organization, someone's asking to us to adjudicate this claim. In order for me to adjudicate this claim, I need to know if the policy was active. I need to know if what the exclusions in this policies are, and I need to know if the foreign travel is covered. So I already know what are the questions to ask, and I also know what individual document or like or an agent that I need to go ask to get each of these questions resolved. And once I get the answers from all of these questions, now I know how to take action on the root question that was given to me.
Okay. And it doesn't replace our existing systems. It sits on
That's
top.
exactly right. Like you hit the nail on the head. So that's sort of our value prop because if you think about how the industry's evolved, like every insurance organization, whether broker, TPAs, or carriers, it's an accumulation of all of the mergers and acquisitions that happened over the year, right? So the technology landscape is chaotic, right? Like there's a lot of different systems dealing with different products in space. So our goal is to be the connecting fabric between these systems without having to rip and replace, right? So from our perspective, like just the way that the industry is evolving, there is another so there used to be a system of record and system of workflows and whatnot. The system of record needs to change, needs to exist because they perform a very valuable service in the sense of like, hey, they own something, they're structuring the data, and we live in an auditable, financial services world. Insurance is notoriously complex in that way. That layer needs to exist. That makes sense. And what we're saying is everything on top, there needs to be a connecting fabric that works across all of these systems to provide a layer of intelligence for the organization to optimize your workflows and whatnot. So you don't have to rip and replace individual ones. You just need to have a connective fabric that you don't have to worry about where the data is coming from. And we want to be that connecting fabric. And most of the actual use cases we put in production, people don't even realize there's an AI in the work. We just do the last mile work that the individual users are today taking on themselves. We just end up becoming a background. So for instance, we do this work today for automating pre-underwriting inquiries for a carrier. I'm just giving that to you as an example. Today, a broker sends an email to a life carrier. They look at it. They have to check the email with sometimes in the email body, sometimes in the attachment. We take that, compare it against, several documents, come up with to figure out what classification to give, pick a template to use, generate an email, and then put the email in front of a user, internal operational user. They say this looks good, and then it gets sent out, right? In this tuning phase, we will put a human in the loop where the operational user is looking at it. In like 6 months from now, the human in the loop does not need it, right? Like, so we would have tuned it enough that not even 6 months, 3 months from now, let's say, right? So the idea is that in a fully automated version of this workflow, there is no AI to be visually seen, right? Like all you're seeing is, okay, I used to go type out an email. I don't have to do that anymore, which is the system that we placed. That part now I can go figure out more valuable work I can do as opposed to simply responding to emails all day.
Very interesting. It seems like most of the other approaches are we empower your underwriter with AI tools. We empower your agent with AI tools. This is more in the background.
That's correct.
Okay,
if you truly the best way to adopt AI in your organization is if people don't have to realize it's AI at all.
What I was thinking is that saves you the massive headache of user adoption and of change management, right?
That's exactly it. Mm-hmm.
If things, so as a former underwriter, if I was middle market, if things get to me with everything that I was going to have to send here to process, send here to rate, if it comes to me with all of those things already done, because they need to get done every time that the policy has this particular piece to it. Then like user adoption is automatic.
Yeah, exactly.
That is fantastic. Okay.
Yeah, I feel like Karan, one of the CEO we just brought on, like he used to be my previous co-founder as well. He and I actually go way back. And he and I went to school together. One of the things that he's lived his entire life in the insurance, right? Like he understands this better than anyone else I've seen. One of the things that he always brings up is at the end of the day, this is an experience issue, not an AI issue, right? Like So people are struggling to get AI, and we are all struggling with the POCs because in order to go from AI being a POC to AI actually used in production, you have to solve the last mile experience issue. And the experience doesn't mean like pretty UI. It's how you act, where the rubber meets the road, how it's actually using AI, and how this workflow is automated, or how you're fixing adding efficiency to the game. And that most of the time that means that I actually no UI at all, right? It's just getting done behind the scenes. But yeah, that became part of how we operate as a company, right? We spend a lot of time obsessing over how the last mile AI is actually implemented.
Okay. For now, are you largely put in the States, or are you aiming to other markets? Kind of what is the
Great
geography for
question.
now?
We're primarily based out of the States. All of our clients currently are in the States. We just got selected to be part of InsurTech Hub Munich.
Is that
And
by Munich Re?
yeah, it's I don't know if it's by Munich Re. It's there's an InsurTech Hub Munich is a nonprofit
Okay,
organization
perfect.
operating out of Munich. Great set of people. I was part of this accelerator program that they run called Global Rapid Accelerator. It was conducted by InsurTech Israel and InsurTech Hub Munich. And while I was there, I met with them and great set of people. So we are going back to Munich in September to meet with them again, and they're
Congratulations.
organizing an event. So I'm optimistic that I mean the whole ecosystem around Munich is fantastic, right? Like the amount of engagement with startups, both from a career perspective and startups being there, was very unique, and we definitely want to be part of it. Very encouraging to see how sorry about that, how engaged the carriers are from there. So we'll see what happens, and we're sort of cautiously paying attention to what's happening in that space as well around Munich. Yeah.
Well, fantastic. So you talked about the first insurance
Yeah.
effort,
Mhm.
but why insurance? When you're looking, you're
Good
coming
question.
from top of the line technology. Consumer products is probably a lot of fun.
Mhm.
Why insurance?
Um, so good question. So I come from it requires a little bit more history lesson, right? Like before I can answer that question directly. So um, one second. Um, sorry.
No problem.
Um, so I come from, I mean, my one of my best friends from college, Karan, he's currently the CEO of Stitch. He and I used to go to school together, and we've always wanted to run a company, right? Like that's sort of our dream when we graduated from Carnegie. And it just, for whatever reason, it never worked out, right? Like we've always stayed in touch, and we started different companies as weekend companies, as we call it. None of the weekend companies went anywhere because we were just not able to pay enough attention to it. And around 2016, he was at EY at the time, and Ernst & Young, and I was at Apple at the time. And we said, now's the time. We have to do it, whether we like it or not. This is probably the last chance we're gonna get before before we move on with it. We were both at that step in our career
Mm.
where we either have to, go for a startup or just adopt, embrace the fact that we're gonna climb the corporate ladder. And at the time, he had a strong conviction that insurance industry is going through uh, a a phase, right? Like machine learning was just about being talked about, and how we make machine learning more usable in an insurance context was not something that everyone was talking about at the time. So I was working on things like that at the time, and I got very interested in this space, especially the intersection between like the data engineering and data science and how do we actually put it to production in an industry that's very complex in terms of if you just look at the data model. So I said, okay, let's do something in this space. And we just sort of worked on several things at a time, and out of the 10, two things worked out. And then Spree happened, and then we built machine learning platform that helped us train a lot of models, and a couple of them got really popular, and we got acquired by a company at the time, and sort of rest flowed. Right.
Okay, rolled the dice in a bunch of different industries. That one took off.
Bunch of
He definitely.
industries. Insurance was our focus. Within the insurance, we were trying to figure out what kind of models would work here, right? Because when people think about insurance, especially coming from my vantage point, it was like insurance is one big blob, right? Like there was no nuances to it when I started. In my head, it took us a while to figure out what specific problem statements we we're going after.
Okay,
And
roll
figure
the dice on a few different problems, and a couple of them took off, and you were able to
exactly.
exit out of that one. Didn't learn your lesson, came right back.
Yes.
Well, there's the vision that insurance is going through a massive technology transition. Definitely correct. When you guys started in 2017, and
Yeah,
definitely like still in the thick of it.
that is correct.
So
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, it always feels like every few years there is a wave of transformation, and we're in the other wave, right? Like it used to be internet, mobile, cloud, now machine learning, and now LLMs. So it's always something. And this time I feel like between the last time and this time, I definitely feel like there's a lot more momentum in how insurers are reacting to AI as opposed to the machine learning phase we were in. It's very encouraging to see there's a lot of tailwind for folks like us working on, platforms.
great, fantastic. Where do you kind of the long-term vision? What do you envision 3 or 4 years from now? You guys will be able to do.
Um, so I feel like one of the things I always tell my team is building AI agents and prompts and whatnot is very easy, right? Like it's people can do that without a ton of engineering work. Doing them predictably in an auditable, traceable kind of an environment where you can sort of trust in the AI that you're developing, that's really hard. That's why people are always stuck in the POC. The last mile is not solved. In my world, like my vision is to create AI agents that replace specific processes within the insurance organization. And that requires a lot of nuanced understanding of what organizations have what kind of process that will be useful, right? Our goal as a company is to create agents that map to very specific parts of different kinds of carriers, TPAs, brokers, and I want to create a catalog of agents that they can use out of the box with, where the agents can understand your organization and be the connective fabric that every organization can adopt to automate, I don't know, 50, 60% of what the manual processes that happens in this space today. We want to be, I mean, in our head, that means more effort will be put on the product side for every insurance organization or the customer experience side, where they'll spend more time servicing the customer in more unique ways as opposed to paying attention to the ops side of the world where they're dealing with the drudgery of it. Right. So it doesn't necessarily mean the organizations are going to shrink, right? Like that's again another fallacy of how we always think about when there is an efficiency play, people think about reduced organization size. I actually think it's going to balloon up, right? It's the way that we've always went through periods of technology when we thought about all the way from tractors to internet to cloud. Every time there was an efficiency play in terms of how things were getting better, we never shrunk. The demand went up, so the organizations are going to either grow up or be able to do more with the same amount of people. It's not like, all of a sudden insurance organizations are going to say, I'm going to have my people because I don't need to grow, right? Like that's sort of the world we live in, and we want to be, a force towards making these organizations more productive, and we want the operational folks to not come to work dreading it. We want to actually make them, do the work that they want to do, right? Not the manual drudgery.
Perfect. So empower them to do the value added work that actually takes advantage of their
Exactly.
experience and their empathy towards the client.
100%. Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. Awesome. All right. Very interesting stuff. Santosh, thank you for your time today.
Absolutely.
And when this goes live, I will tag both you and the company on LinkedIn. And yeah, look forward to see you guys continue to grow with this kind of different approach to retooling our companies.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Tony. Really appreciate the opportunity.